This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there he is. Ira Winderman. He's ready. No glasses, I'm sure. He was already. Oh no, he kept
No,
them on.
actually, I'm still filing a story as we talk right now, Big O, about Mario Chalmers signing with the Heat G League affiliate. So I'm literally on my other computer screen right now. Just have that posted, and now I can come on and with my Clark Kent look again.
Okay, I think we got you now. I think we had a little bit of a fuzzy connection there. It's the internet. It happens every once in a while. You got me now, Ira?
I
You
got you
good?
now, Big O. I'll just,
Okay.
you know me. I'll just keep talking no matter what. So anyway, like I was saying, I just posted a Mario Chalmers story. He signed with the Heat's G League affiliate just a few minutes ago. So he's serious about trying to get back in the NBA. Brandon Knight, who's trying to get back in the NBA, is rejoining the Skyforce. Look, these players can sign with any NBA team. There's no guarantee with the Heat that they'll bring them in. But you know what? It's nice to know you have that in the wings. Should
Yeah.
something happen to Kyle Lowry, should you need a veteran point guard, you have them there. And it also shows the dedication to Mario, that this was not just I'm just going to try to jump in and get the glory and be back with the Heat, that he really wants to get back in the league. That said, he's 35. Eric Spoelstra said all the right things about trying to bring him back. But you know what? Sometimes, Big O, the train moves on, and you also have to accept that as well. So it's a nice little story. And if you happen to be in the neighborhood in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, I recommend you go out to the Stanford Pentagon, and you can watch Rio, and you can root for him there.
But what I like is I like the love behind it all
Yes.
because he was your guy. He helped you. He was a good guy, not a bad guy. He went through the injury, all that stuff. He's bounced around. He came in to help you out in a pinch, and now you're helping him, giving him an opportunity because he still wants to play on your G League affiliate. So I kind of like the family affair to it. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I'm glad that they've got his back. And by the way, James Chalmers is his cousin he works here at Acura Pembroke Pines, actually.
Perfect segue.
So yeah, so we're always talking now.
And you know what, Big O? And the Heat always take care of their own. The
Right, that's
coach
what I mean. That's what I
the
mean.
coach at Sioux Falls is Sid Powell, who had a cup of coffee with the team during that terrible 2007, 2008 season where they got the
I
draft rights
remember.
to Michael Beasley after that. They gave Beasley two other chances to come back, once from China, to give him a chance. So, I mean, and look at the coaching staff.
Yeah,
Malik Allen, former
yeah.
Heat player. Anthony Carter, former Heat player. Chris Quinn, former Heat player. Malik Allen, former Heat player. This really is familial. This team, maybe unlike the Dolphins and other teams, they never really lose their roots. Even Glenn Rice, who didn't play for Pat Riley, he was traded for Pat Riley the day Pat arrived to get Alonzo Mourning. Pat brought him in as a team ambassador. He worked at the team's summer camp with Tony Fiorentino. So the one thing about the Heat, I will say this, they are familial. They do take care of their own. When you do right by the Miami Heat, whether it's announcers, John Crotty, Ruth Riley Hunter being with the Miami Soul, they take care of you down the road as well. Guy like Eric Reed's been here all 34 seasons. And that's sort of a nice thing, that there is, you and I always refer to old Heat names and former players and the Grant
Sure.
Longs and Sherman Douglases and Ronnie Cycli. I do like that about the Heat. So many teams forget about their past. So many teams are like the Marlins, and they bring guys in as rentals, and you almost forget that they were here in the first place. This is a team going back to 1988, 89 from when they started. And I'll give you the perfect example before we get into the current. Ron Rothstein, still on halftime, still hitting the stop button there, still giving us highlights.
That's right.
That's the nice thing I like to see about franchises. I think the Dolphins have lost that to a degree. I love their Ring of Honor. I love that Joe and Kim Bocamper are still on the broadcast. But guys like you, who've been here your whole life, guys like me who've been here almost 40 years, you like to see that there's a bridge to the past, that your franchises have a history also. So I think that's a really nice thing. I think this Chalmers thing brings him full circle also. He's going to Sioux Falls. He'll be around. We'll hear a little more about him.
And by the way, props to the Panthers. They do some of that also. Okay, so they're kind of developing that themselves too. If you look around their organization, they've had guys that have been part of their
Oh,
organization as
absolutely. Billy
players.
Lindsay doing the broadcast, Randy Moeller being back.
John,
They
yeah.
yeah. They bring back their guys, longtime announcer like Steve Goldstein. It's nice to see. I like that part of it. I like the comforting
Jovo.
voice.
Jovo's been on too. You
Yeah,
know, they do a lot of that too. The Panthers are really good about taking care of their
it's a
own
good point.
I think they've done their share of that. By the way, educate us on this. Anybody can be plucked away from the G League, right? From
Correct.
another team if it's kind of like the whole thing. As long as they put them on their 15-man roster, is that how it goes?
Absolutely, except for your two-way contracts or guys you send down for seasoning. So in other words, Marcus Garrett and Caleb Martin are also listed with the Skyforce on two ways. They can't be plucked. And if the Heat were to send a Yurchivan, not that they're going to, or some young player down, they can't be plucked. And honestly, if Mario Chalmers gets a chance, the Heat would say, God bless you. Go
Right.
play
Of
for the
course.
Clippers.
Of course.
Brandon Knight's the perfect example. Pinecrest, Fort Lauderdale kid, got a 10-day contract with the Dallas Mavericks. Remember Eric Spoelstra saying he couldn't have been happier. They were tracking him in Dallas. They like that also. The Heat do that. The Heat, if they realize they can't play someone and there's a better spot for someone, they wish them the best and they send them on their way. They've done that with a ton of assistant coaches. Pat Delaney, the former assistant coach here, is now going to coach the Washington Wizards because Wes Unseld Jr. is an NBA protocol. So they take care of their own also. You know, they're not, that proprietary. So that's nice to see. I agree, Big O.
Yeah, no, it's I just want to make sure so people know
Right.
that outside of the two, and you can only have how many down there? Two, you mean? Only two-way contracts,
Two
correct?
two-way contracts per team, and we're getting kind of close now because January 20th is the day you guarantee two ways. We know Caleb Martin's not going anywhere. I just wrote about him today in the Sun Sentinel as being this point guard defensive stopper. The other choice, a little interesting though, Marcus Garrett, have to guarantee him by January 20th. Or do you replace him with Kyle Guy and have a three-point shooter on demand instead? So there is a little bit of a deadline brewing when it comes to G League and two-way contracts also.
No doubt. All right. They got games back-to-back tonight. They host the Hawks, or I mean, they visit the Hawks, right?
No, host the Hawks, both home games, yeah.
That's right. Host the Hawks and then host the Sixers on back-to-back nights tonight. I mean, the Hawks, I'm not as concerned, but because you're not necessarily with all your top guys, how do you balance on a back-to-back night with these guys?
I
Or
am really curious to see Eric Spoelstra's approach. I believe Jimmy Butler is close. I ran into him at the arena on Tuesday before I
he
left.
would have played both anyways.
No, that's the thing. So
You
I'm
play
almost
him tomorrow
wondering
night, not tonight. You don't need him tonight.
if they time it, I would think you would look at Philadelphia as the tougher test, the fact you just beat Atlanta in Atlanta. So I think there's something to do with that. I wonder about Kyle Lowry on back-to-backs also. Eric Spoelstra is not going to go in and say, I'm playing this guy this game and not that guy that game, because you don't want to insult the Hawks. You don't want to tell the Hawks, we're not playing Jimmy because you're not good. That just fuels them. I also think, Big O, it comes down to minutes. If you were to blow out the Hawks, or heaven forbid, be blown out by the Hawks, then the guys might not play big minutes, and you might be able to play them in both games. Sixers are playing very well now. Joel Embiid has put himself into the MVP conversation with the way he's playing lately. So I think that is the tougher test. It's really interesting, though. And I spoke about this to you on our Acura Pembroke Pines report this week. On Tuesday, we also spoke about it with Clay on our hour-long Inside the Paint show brought to you by Sloman Home Shield. When we talked about that, the Hawks last season, the Heat played them on a Sunday, blew the Hawks out. On Monday, the Hawks fired Lloyd Pierce. On Tuesday, they hired Nate McMillan and blew out the Heat. Well, all of a sudden now, the Hawks were humiliated at home by the Heat on Wednesday night. And that was without Jimmy. That was without Bam Adebayo. All of a sudden, I'm flying home yesterday on Thursday, and they trade Cam Reddish in basically a giveaway deal for Kevin Knox and some lottery-protected pick from the Knicks that comes from the Hornets. So the Hawks once again are in flux. So did the trade yesterday sort of provide a kick in the butt to their players that, hey, no one is safe here. We're number 12 in the East and we got to get going. So I am curious to see, number one, does that evoke a response from the Hawks, Big O? Or number two, does every player say, well, I'm out the door next. Why should I give everything to this team? There's been John Collins rumors going to the 76ers for Simmons. So you have that possibility there. There have been other talks, DeAndre Hunter and some of the other players in trade talks. I am curious to see where the Hawks' heads are now. It'll be a fascinating back-to-back. Hawks 8 p.m. tonight at FTX Arena, 76ers 8 p.m. Saturday night at FTX Arena.
What'd you think of that Cam Reddish move? Is that and maybe Heat fans going, "Hey, we couldn't get a part of that? What's up with that?"
No, you
Why
know what? I think there was a Heat angle in that, Big O, but I look at it this way. The Heat don't give a rat's ass about draft choices. They throw them out. As a matter of fact, I think right now in front of Acura, Pembroke Pines, Pat Riley's handing out draft choices to anyone who comes in for a test drive. I believe that's the special this month.
you get a draft choice and you get a draft choice?
Take a test drive in one of
Right.
our new 2022 Acuras. We'll give you a Miami Heat draft choice. Atlanta's had, look at all the guys Atlanta's had. They've had Reddish, they've had Hunter, they've had Kevin Huerter. You can collect all the draft choices you want, but unless you make something out of them, unless you develop something, I could almost match up a Heat developmental player, Max Strus for Cam Reddish, go down the line of who the Heat have developed. So you have these teams, and Big O, here's one more thing. Good talking point for you. The Atlanta Hawks in a draft a couple of years ago had a chance to draft Luka Doncic. Instead, the Dallas Mavericks said, we will swap draft choices with you, positions, and give you a future pick. So Atlanta moved down 2 spots, took Trae Young instead of Luka Doncic after the trade, and the extra player who was the throw-in, Cam Reddish. So they made nothing out of the deal except offloading him. So sometimes you act like the smartest person in the room. We got 2 first-round draft choices. Well, who would you rather have right now, Big O? Going to put you on the spot here. Would you rather have Luka Doncic or Trae Young and Cam Reddish?
I'm going Luka all the way.
Yeah. So I think the Reddish thing was sort of, let's forget the memories about the bad deal we made and let's try to regroup. Atlanta has a lot of players. If you were to look at the Hawks roster and the Heat roster, especially now with the Heat shorthanded, you might go with the Hawks because of potential. Well, like you often say, F potential. Potential doesn't win games. Quality development wins games. Upper hand, advantage, Pat Riley. Again, I believe until 5 o'clock, Acura Pembroke Pines, you take a test drive there in one of the new 2022s, you get a Heat second-round pick. You can't go wrong.
I love it. Yurchivan's development. Talk to me a little bit about where they want to take him once Dedmon is back.
This is going to be fascinating, Big O. And I almost wish you were back in the old days covering the Heat as a beat writer, a beat reporter for QAM, and sitting there because you would ask these kind of questions. I firmly believe when Bam Adebayo comes back, which could be within the week, with Dwayne Dedmon back, Umar Yurchivan goes back on the developmental trail, plays when needed because of foul trouble, injuries, maybe back-to-backs, and every question to Eric Spoelstra will be, is Umar Yurchivan playing? Why didn't Umar Yurchivan play? Yes. And Eric Spoelstra's thought answer, which he'll never say publicly, the old thought bubble on top of your head in the cartoons, because he's trying to win now. Because PJ Tucker's 36, because Kyle Lowry's 35, because almost every other veteran on the roster is 32. God bless the Big O, Turk Nowitzki, whatever you want to call him. His time will come. Dwayne Dedmon's on a 1-year contract. He likely will be gone next season. That chance will be there. This is the win now Heat. Dwayne Dedmon is a quality backup center. And that's a role you have to learn, that you're only getting 15 minutes. You bust your ass when you're out there. You pick up your 5 fouls. It doesn't matter. It's a role. Umar Yurchivan has not been cast in that role. Umar Yurchivan has played more minutes as a starter than he has as a reserve. It's been all or nothing. That's something you have to learn to join the game in motion. Umar Yurchivan likes his touches. Umar Yurchivan likes to be involved. That won't happen when Bam Adebayo's back, when Jimmy Butler is handling. It's going to be really interesting. Believe me, twice a week in our Acura Pembroke Pines reports, you will ask me, Ira, Umar Yurchivan didn't play. Dwayne Dedmon was 1 for 4. What is Spo thinking? It's a fun little argument for people like us. And I will tell you the answers then, just as I'm telling you now, Big O. If they're winning, that's all Eric Spoelstra cares about. God bless Omer for what he's done. His time will come. Hassan Whiteside had to wait for his time to come, and he was getting persnickety about all that also. But right now, this is win now mode. What Umar Yurchivan did is exactly what you want from a developmental process. He bridged the injury gap until you got back to your full team. People, don't forget how good the Heat were also at the start of the season, when Markieff Morris was playing, when Jimmy Butler was playing, when Bam was playing. That's the team. That's the 2021-22 Miami Heat.
Yeah, but this is pretty damn good, man.
It is fun.
Holy crap, man. This is pretty damn good. Now, everything you said is 100% accurate. But to have a little fun and to play a little devil's advocate and just to kind of play, counter in the middle of a game,
Sure.
if I'm in a little bit more of a slower pace game, half court style, I'm comfortable with Dedmon. But if I'm in a faster pace game where I might be running the court a little bit more, I might be a little bit more comfortable with Yurchivan. So is that something that could alter it a little bit for Spo? That he says, you know what? Maybe I need a little bit more of the athleticism out there with Yurchivan than I do with Dedmon.
I would put it this way: there's about 100 touches or 100 possessions in an NBA game if you're playing in a good fluidity, not a lot of free throws. I would say more of how many scoring offensive-minded possessions do you need? In other words, if Jimmy isn't playing, if you don't have offensive-minded players out there, then you probably want Yurchivan. He's a numbers guy. He has gotten the double-doubles. I run offense through Omer. I never run offense through Dwayne Dedmon.
No. I'm not
Right.
saying running offense, but if you're running and if Jimmy's shooting, you need somebody getting those misses. I'm just saying.
And then that's a good point. And I would say this also is the Heat have to decide what their style is. Right now, it's been a three-point-a-thon. Since December, this has been a lights-out, Golden State Warriors-like NBA three-point shooting team, what the Heat have done. But before that, with Bam and with Jimmy, they're a half-court based offense. So when people talk about what are the Heat going to be, Eric Spoelstra has to recalibrate. Do you bring some of this style in when Bam and Jimmy come back? Or do you go back to the proven 2020 NBA Finals style? It's going to be interesting as we head to that February 10th NBA trading deadline to see what the Heat might be or might not be. I agree.
And then the other part of the equation, once you get healthy and you're so damn deep, it's almost deciding who do you go to in the bench depending on what you need.
Absolutely.
I think that part of the equation, when we get to that whole 8-man rotation thing, I don't it might be an odd rotation night to night. It might be 8 because of the way it went, but it might be 9 or 10 because of certain matchups that you had to adjust to.
Well, and again, I believe that Duncan Robinson will move back in the starting lineup for this reason. When Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler were playing, Duncan Robinson had 2 great years alongside of them. I mean, he just plays well with them. So again, I'm going to throw this to you. I threw it to Clay Ferraro on our Wednesday show also. Let's go back to the Heat traditional starting lineup of Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, and Kyle Lowry. So that's our 5. So at the start of the season, the next 3 off the bench were a given. It was going to be Tyler Hero, Markieff Morris, and Dwayne Dedmon, a guard, a forward, a center. I'm not so sure about Markieff Morris anymore. He's only played 10 games. That doesn't mean he can't come back. He'll have his time. He should be back relatively soon. But I've got to get Caleb Martin in there because he's good and he's a two-way player and he gives guys time off the bench. And let me ask you this, Big O. Can you summarily, we're talking about Umar Yurchivan, but can you summarily just not play Max Strus after what he's done?
No.
Doesn't he deserve some minutes?
No, definitely not. Because when you see, there's going to be times where I would put Strus and Duncan out there just to stretch the hell out of the floor and drive defenses crazy.
Okay, and
Lowry would have a field day with things like that.
And that's my point. So if I'm giving you Dedmon, Hero, and Markieff as the next 3, and we both agree you've got to find time for Strus and Martin, we're up to 10. We haven't even mentioned Umar Yurchivan again, and then the elephant in the room. Because if Victor Oladipo comes back, he's not coming back as an 11th man. He's coming back as a 7th man at the least. So these are going to be interesting questions.
They got a shot at the title.
They
got a shot at the title. I'm telling you.
Is you on the Acura Pembroke Pines reports on Monday and Fridays, and with Clay on our Sloman's Home Shield show on Wednesdays, are going to keep asking me about who didn't play. And as Eric Spoelstra will say, that's a first world problem. That's a rich people problem.
If you lose, that'll be an issue. If you win, it's petty for us to worry about who didn't play or whatever. Obviously, you press the right buttons. You know what I'm saying?
But petty's pretty damn good for radio, whether it's terrestrial or otherwise. So we will talk about it. This is fun. This is not talking about who the hell are the Dolphins going to play in their offensive line because everyone sucks. This is not talking about the Marlins just traded their entire starting outfield by midseason. Now who do they play? This is a wealth of contributing riches. Matter of fact, Big O, it's funny. We just did this whole 2 or 3 minutes here. I didn't mention another name who I think you would agree has grown into a quality NBA player. Who haven't we spoken about? Can you think about it quick? I'm putting you on the spot.
Gabe Vincent.
Gabe Vincent. So there's another guy who was terrific in Atlanta on Wednesday, played the fourth quarter, even when it got close. So if you put him in there, and then you have 13 guys, basically the only 2 guys in this rotation, in this roster right now, who I think are put to the side are Udonis Haslem, coach on the bench, and probably Casey Okpala because he's either injured or just not good enough. But you have about 13 deep to play with. It is a fascinating case study of how Eric Spoelstra plays this out.
All right, I'll let you go with this. The other thing that I've been so impressed with is Yurchivan, the facilitator. His awareness on the court. I love it. And in a way, as hopefully he sharpens the rest of his game, he becomes very Bam-like, actually, in a way, because he can do he rebounds like a monster and he facilitates like a monster and he has that awareness like Bam. And to me, I've watched the Kevin Willises of the world and the Whitesides of the world over the years on this team.
Even Alonzo Mourning never passed the ball. Yeah,
but hell, he's so effective in the post that I could live with that part with Zoe. The other guys, but I could live with Zoe at least in that sense. But I just love the maturity and the awareness of him with the ball, that he is so willing to set up his teammates.
And that shows he's a very, very bright young man. And that shows that he sits and he studied what Bam does. He knows the team style. He's willing to give up the rock. When you give up the rock, you get the rock. And players who learn that become better players. When you don't give up the rock, you don't get the rock as much. And then Hassan Whiteside complains about touches. That's the difference. He's learned how to share and be a good friend. And that has your teammates embracing you. Even the other day, he had a 6 assist. I didn't even notice till I looked at the box score. He is becoming a team player, someone you want out there. Again, difficult decisions. Eric Spoelstra calls them, first world rich people problems, but he's glad to have them. It's going to be a really interesting second half of the season. Starting tonight against the Hawks, 25 of the final 41 at home. I'll be with this backdrop a lot of times and not the bad curtains in the hotel in Atlanta when we do these reports twice a week on Acura Pembroke Pines reports. So it'll be interesting. This is the time to make hay. We now have Dwayne Dedmon back. We're getting Jimmy Butler probably this weekend. Bam Adebayo within a week. Then it is go time. And all of a sudden, third place in the East, couple of games out of first place, a really good spot to reset and restart the season.
I tell you missed those days of the black hole. Kevin Willis, once it went in, it was like the Roach Motel. It never went out again. That's amazing. All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And, of course, you can catch him here multiple times a week with the Acura Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA report. And on Wednesdays, baby, it's the Slowman's Home Security Inside the Paint show. Ira, thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the basketball.
Remember, test drive today, get a Heat second-round pick. Thank you, Big O.
There you go. All right, Ira Winderman and the Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report.
This is the Big O Show.